Hi, I'm Darold Newton, and this is Hey, Bay City.
Oh yeah, there it is. Man, you have such a good voice for this.
Well, thank you. I guess it's the only one that I have.
Yeah.
So
as soon as I'm interviewing somebody and I put the headphones, I'm like, oh, I wish I sounded like Darold.
well, I do have a degree in broadcasting. I'm using it here and there, but we worked on those things. And I worked in radio for a while. For a while.
How'd you get into broadcasting?
Well, I originally went to Michigan State University for electrical engineering.
Oh, really?
Too much math and all of that.
There's like numbers and stuff with this.
So,
I don't know.
So I quickly transferred over to communications and broadcasting and telecommunications because at that time was a burgeoning new technology with cable, and there were supposed to be all these great things that they were going to do with cable. So there you have it. And then I kind of branched over into the advertising arena. I spent several years making commercials for a lot of great brands out there.
Out on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, primarily. I started in Detroit with a regional agency by the name of Ross Roy Incorporated with the Chrysler and Mopar and service and parts and all of those good things. And then one thing led to another, and I ended up in the mecca of advertising, which was New York City.
Yeah, wild. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was great. I tell folks it's an excellent career. It's active, and it actually mirrors the things that we see on TV now, because ads and commercials basically mirror life. And so it was a great experience, and particularly with the brands like McDonald's Corporation, the Maryland State Lottery, and things of that nature. Made all of those good commercials, and even some of my, well, I like to say I'm proud of them, but back in the day with Anheuser-Busch and the malt liquor industry and all of that stuff. So I had an opportunity to do King Cobra Malt Liquor and with G. Heileman Brewery, Colt 45 with Billy D. If you're old enough to remember those Billy D commercials, awesome. I had a lot to do with those.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And actually won an award for those, believe it or not. Yeah.
I'm in the presence of greatness.
Bowing
down to the great Darold Newton.
Well, I tell you right about now, it's a career for the young because
pretty intense.
Yeah, I lived out of a garment bag because you never know. I was from New York to St. Louis and all over the place.
Right.
You get back and you got to jump on a plane again, and we forgot to do something, and they need to talk with you again. It's not like Zoom at that.
you actually have to go there and talk to people.
Absolutely, that would have made a big difference.
Yeah. Before I started traveling for work, I had a very glamorous view of it. Like, oh man, I would love to travel for work. And it is really cool. You get to experience different communities and people and stories and all of these things. Yeah. But man, it is intense.
Oh, it is. I tell you, you meet a lot of people. Like you say, you get into a lot of neighborhoods. And if you're going to do the marketing, you really have to know the people in the environment. But over time, man, it just wears on you. Yeah. It really does. So you really appreciate it that day or two that you had off to do nothing. And doing nothing was something. So
I just want to sit on the couch or on the futon.
Don't want to even watch TV because that's too much like work.
I just want to sit here in the dark room and not do a single thing.
Absolutely, I tell you. But it's a wonderful career, and I would encourage the young out there to look into it because it's fun. And matter of fact, I think the thing that got me started on that at that time, there was Bewitched, the old sitcom with Darren Stevens, and they were ad guys. And so it's like, wow, that's kind of cool when you're out there presenting and doing the storyboards and all of that sort of stuff. In the old days, it really was exciting. Yeah. And getting up and presenting.
It's creative work.
Yeah. And it brings it really brings the concept of teamwork in there because as an account manager, you go out and you get the concepts and you hawk the idea, and then you've got your creative team that comes in and does the mock-ups and all of that good stuff. So It's still a pretty lucrative area to get into.
Yeah.
And you can make a lot of money, and your work stays out there forever. You don't see it in mine, but it's in the archives somewhere.
I made that commercial.
Right, absolutely. That's mine. That's mine, and that's mine. Just the same way with you with your photos. Once you put those photos out there, they're there for for the entirety.
I feel that. Were you living like in New York City itself, or outside the city, or?
Well, for a while there, I stayed down in Gramercy Park, which is the southern part. Well, we call it just before Soho in that area. It was the trendy area.
Yeah. Oh.
And then eventually I moved across the Hudson to Montclair, New Jersey, which is a nice little community there.
Yeah, I've got a friend in Montclair.
Yeah, it's real nice area. Pretty artsy and stuff, but the value has gone up quite a bit just because it's in a communal. It's in an area where it's the commute isn't that bad. So, and you had parks and trees and things of that nature.
Yeah. Things that you may not get in the city.
Yeah, and at that time I thought maybe this is where I'm going to reside for the rest of my life. But when you start thinking about kids and schools and things of that nature, it kind of changes your perspective a little bit on life. And
is that why you ended up coming back to Michigan?
I'm actually I had some issues with my dad and health and all of that sort of stuff. Okay. So I brushed back to be supportive in that way. But people talk about Bay City. Bay City is a great community. Amen. And you can go far and wide, but still that homesickness, and just when you grow up here, it's just hard to get it out of your blood. It really is. So
you grew up here in Bay City?
Pretty much. I'm a Southern boy.
I was stalking you a little bit on Facebook, and I saw Louisiana.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Where in Louisiana?
Wow. Well, technically, I was born in Shreveport, which is the northern part of Louisiana, but grew up in the central part, a little town called Coshada, a little Indian town. But that's where my roots are, and that's where home always will be in the heart.
Yeah. So, how many years were you there?
About six years before we came north to Bay City. And these two places, Coshada and Bay City, are home in the heart. So
why the move from Louisiana to Bay City? Well,
back then in the 60s and all, with civil rights and being a product of the Jim Crow South, people were migrating north because industry and jobs were abundant. And so my father came up first and then brought the family up later. The rest is history. Everybody during that time really was trying to escape the old Jim Crow South and the oppression there as being an African American, and things seemed to worked out for the good. Yeah. And so I thank my dad for that, and my mom too. And so the rest is history.
And speaking of history, it's really easy for us now, and you see every once in a while little posts or memes circulate the internet just pointing this out. You almost sometimes get the impression, if you didn't live through it, that was hundreds of years ago, 100 years ago. But it's not. No. It's so recent in our history, and it's so easy to be disconnected from that.
Sure.
You see your parents saying, "Hey, we got to get out of here." That wasn't that long ago.
Not at all. If you really think about it, within the past 55 years or so, and people think about Ruby Bridges and all of that stuff with the integration of schools and things of that nature, she's still a living legend. Yes. And there have been a lot of positive changes, but if you think about it, 55 years is not a whole heck of a long time.
It's like a wink.
Yeah, but you have to be encouraged by the progress. We still have a long way to go, which is the reason why I decided to get involved and stay involved with the local NAACP. Not to mention that my dad was the president for 18 years.
Oh, he was?
And now I'm working on 10. I don't know if I'll make 18, but it's rewarding. And the civil rights and social justice and all those things are very important to me, not just for people of color, but for everyone. Yeah. And I don't like to get into the state of politics, but as you see the way things are going now, we need groups like ours right now to stay on the forefront and fight for those civil and social rights and human rights for that matter.
So I imagine just by the sound of it, with your dad being the former president, that it was very explicit in your household talking about civil rights and being engaged and with the community and things like that. Is that true?
Well, my dad was kind of a pretty quiet not, I would say, a humble individual, and he didn't share a lot of that, maybe because of sparing me as the oldest of the two. I have a sister named Mickey. Hey, Mickey, how you doing?
Hi, Mickey.
And just to keep that pressure down, because leaving the South at 6, just kind of feeling a little bit or understanding the Jim Crow. Well, why do I have to go to a movie house and go to the balcony, even though the popcorn was free? But I didn't.
But I want to sit down here.
I want to be right there up close in the screen. And the drinking fountains, white only, black only. That was kind of an era that we really don't need to revisit.
Yeah,
but it was pretty ugly then, and it's still ugly now. But we have to be encouraged that things are going to get better, and as more people get involved with the advocacy of it all, I think it does, and it will get better.
Yeah. Why did you decide to take up the responsibility of being president of the NAACP? What was it? Was there a specific event, or was it just kind of a calling, or how'd you get involved initially?
Well, Phil, that's a good question, and I tell people it's something that I just didn't get up one morning and say, "Hey, this is what I want to do.
I want to be president today."
or it's just to make a difference first and foremost. And I would see the good works that my dad did, providing scholarships to first generation people, and just starting to empower those that are in the shadows or that might have been marginalized, that didn't have a voice. And I said, this is really important work, because as I went to school here in Bay City, I was probably one of a handful of people of color that actually went through Bay City Central at that time. And there were some issues here and there, but as I got into athletics and all, it kind of bridged a lot of gaps between populations that didn't understand, or as I say, people fear what they don't understand. But once we engaged and we shared a lot of things, what we found is there are so many things that we have in common than the things that separate us. So, and I wish everybody would kind of take that perspective and look, because there's so many things. I got out there, I hunted, I fished with the guys, I drank beer with them, all that good stuff. And they said, holy cow, Darold, you're a really cool guy. I love you. You're not what I thought. Yeah. And that's basically the way it is. Once you start to engage, it's, there's more that bonds us than separates us.
If you think I'm cool, guess what? We've got lots more cool people just like me.
All right, there you go. I'm just one of many. So we just, if we can find a way to just engage and embrace each other, I think the world would be a lot. I didn't wake up and say, "Oh, I'm going to save the world," but show by example.
The biggest gift that doing this kind of work has given me is that it's really, when you sit down and you talk with somebody, just a simple conversation. It doesn't have to be like, let's sit down and talk for 3 hours about civil rights or issues of it. It doesn't even have to be that intense.
No.
But when you sit down and you have a conversation with somebody that you don't know, it cracks your entire self right open.
Yeah.
Because you get this really amazing experience of being able to experience other people's experiences. They can say, this is what I went through. This is why I think what I do. This is what I love. This is what I think is funny. And then you walk away thinking, I've never met somebody from that demographic or from that religion or from XYZ, but you walk away with a completely different relationship to people of that demographic, because you can say, wow, they are amazing humans. They do have gone through things that I can't even imagine. And that has been such a gift.
Absolutely. And being a communications major and all of that, first you have to care. You have to care. And when you care, then you share. And sharing and interacting and mingling provides understanding. And whether there's understanding, there's communication. And once we communicate, because, you get people that'll say, wow, I don't want to say the wrong thing, or how do I say this, or I've had this question, but I've been afraid to ask. And but you have to have that seat at the table, as we are here today, and have that conversation. It's really not that difficult when you get into it. You just, maybe take some baby steps. And as I shared with one of my colleagues with the Bay Area Community Foundation over there, Diane.
Oh, I love Diane.
Diane Mahoney
Yeah,
now.
Mahoney, yeah.
And she's taken a really big step in bringing a study in or having a study done about diversity, equity, and inclusion,
Beautiful.
particularly for this area. And the study is available now if you go to their website.
Beautiful.
And diversity, there's no way around it when you look at how this country was founded and all. So we've got to find a way to get along and just have fun and embrace the idea of diversity. I come a long way from it, speaking from Louisiana to here and the engagement and all. But there's more fun coloring with a box of crayons with multicolors than just one color, right? And that's how I put it. And this fight that I've been fighting for all of these years, the 10 years with the NAACP branch, has been challenging, but it's been rewarding. And I tell people this advocacy is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And people have to realize change will occur, but it's not going to happen overnight. But if we take those steps moving forward, just to do the little things, those little things do add up over time in a big way. So,
yeah. So 2 years ago, I mean, it seems like probably 50 years ago now, but 3 years ago, George Floyd protests kind of taking over the country, spreading throughout the country, everybody getting involved. And Bay City was one of those, had a couple protests out here in the intersection. Is you being part of the NAACP here branch, president of, what was your reaction to seeing especially young people in the community get involved in that kind of way?
Well, I was very pleased to see just the diversity out there and the young getting involved, as we see the young being an intricate part of change as we speak today. And so I was very encouraged and just elated to see that, because right and wrong, well, just let's put it this way. Wrong has no color. Wrong is wrong no matter how you see it. It's wrong, and that situation is wrong. And with the NAACP, I've been trying to show folks that when the Black Lives movement came out, well, all lives matter. Sure, all lives do matter. But, you know, when you're being oppressed and those that are in the shadows have been screaming out, oh, you're whining. What are you whining about? You're in America. You're the best country. You've got the best life. But, you know, that's not necessarily true for certain demographics, as you say. And so we just wanted to have that voice being heard, that, you know, the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness isn't necessarily guaranteed or in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights as it is written for some. So we just want to have just a little piece of the pie too, and eat freely and get full off of, you know, this country and life has to offer.
Yeah, a little piece of the pie of pursuit of happiness. Like I would like that entire pie, actually.
Well, once you start with a piece, especially if it's good, it should be enough to motivate everyone to do better. I like the flavor or the taste of that pie, so hey, I want a little bit more. But you know, there's enough, should be enough to go around for everyone.
I'm kind of curious to ask you this, because you had mentioned the taking little steps, that it's a marathon and not a sprint as far as affecting change and being engaged. And I'm curious to ask you this. When you think about a community at large, saying we do want a more diverse community. We want to make sure that when our community is diverse, that everyone feels like they are welcomed in that diversity and embraced in that diversity, and confronting issues of race or challenges or things that they have right now. What would be your advice to people in a community saying, hey, this is really important that we address this, or we take these steps to change? What would your advice be?
Well, I get complaints every day pretty much on something dealing with race or racial issues.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And it really is alarming when it's particularly the young. I mean, children in elementary or middle school. You know, and you have to think, wow, where does that come from? Why is this happening? But my advice would be, because you may be outside looking in, just take the perspective of putting your foot in someone else's shoe, or imagining what it would be like to wear my skin for one day, and reverse the roles. Because I've always been on the stage where being a minority, but those of the majority don't know that feeling. So just the perspective, just think about it. If the roles were reversed and you went to school, you say you're a little white young lady or young man in an all black school, how would you feel? Or what would your reaction be? Or how would you, navigate through that? And it might make a little bit of sense and kind of resonate with you.
Yeah.
But don't be too quick to judge, but just kind of put your feet in someone else's shoe and say, well, we still have the same opportunities, but no, there's a lot of other factors out there that work against you. Racism, oppression, implicit biases, which is out there. And people think it's, as we say, it's a systemic. It's built into our systems, our school, our employment, our services and all. And once you have that at top of mind, then you can make those changes because you're aware.
Yep.
In order to change things, you have to be aware and you have to bring it to the forefront so that you can address it. So it just makes sense.
And I think such a critical part of that is all of that engagement that happens before, because you can't really take the right steps if you're not listening to the right people.
Absolutely.
If you're sitting in a room by yourself and not engaging with the people that you're trying to help, how can you really help them? It just becomes a guessing game, or this program sounds very politically right, so we're going to do it and we're going to roll it out. Right. It's not going to do anything because we're not actually engaging our community. And so that engagement before not only ensures, I think, that you're taking the right steps, but that's at least to me, the only way that you can really put yourself in somebody else's shoes by asking, like, tell me about what it's like to wear your shoes. Otherwise, you are just kind of guessing and assuming.
Yeah. And that's like having that seat at the table. And one of my sheroes is Shirley Chisholm, who ran for one of the first women to run for president, which a lot of people don't know wasn't not just Hillary Clinton, but she said, hey, if they don't give you a seat at the table, you bring your own folding chair. We'll have that conversation. And I do, as I said, I love what the folks over at the Bay Area Community Foundation have done, because they invited me to have a seat at the table and get some understanding. And you may see me in and around town with events and pulling myself up to the table because I really want to have that conversation, because conversations is a starter. And then when you bring issues to the forefront, let's talk about it. Let's see how everybody can get involved, because there are a lot of problems out there that just I, as a black person, can't solve, or you as a white person can't solve. We have to solve these things together, and that's where the allyship in. And I include or would invite some of our businesses as well, because they are part of the system. They are part of growth. They are part of the change that, matter of fact, can make change happen quickly with the resources that they do provide. And I also challenge them not to just say, but do, because, we're big supporters of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we're going to do this and that, and we're going to go out there. And then over time, things just, like, as you said, it sounds good. It's the politically right thing to do for our company, and it makes us look good, but you have to do. Actions speak louder than words. Yeah,
so. It's the curse of coining a new acronym. It's like, well, it's DEI, and diversity, which is amazing. Don't twist my words, listeners. It is amazing, but it can end up being relegated to just that. Well, it's a DEI thing, and then it flips outside your brain. You think about other things, and then 5 years goes by, and you haven't really taken any of those steps to fulfill that charter.
Or when I knock on the door and says, all right, we're trying to do this amazing event or something to that. Well, we don't have the funds, or you're going to have to wait till next year, or we don't have it in the budget just for this. Let me find a way. And as I said, as each minute it passes, so does that that opportunity to make a difference here, because some of the things that the NAACP has been doing for the community has been for the community, not just for people of color. And also, let me say this, that it's not just a Black organization. And if people would take the time to look at the history, particularly our history here, we've been here in the community since 1918, and that's 105 years, if my math is correct.
Yeah, wild.
And we understand the dynamics of the community. Being a small organization, we're embracing everyone because those civil and social rights affect us all, not just because of my skin color, but there are other things that, on the forefront as far as your rights and things of that nature that we also fight for. And then on a national scope, the founders, out of the eight or so major founders, 5 or 6 of them were white. So that in itself should say something about our organization. When we say colored people, which but it was a great coalition of some good people that came together for a good cause. And that's sort of the driving force that I have right now, is to getting more people, diverse backgrounds and such, to support us, and not only support us, to join us and be a part of change and making this community more harmonious, and just when we're all happy and in harmony and living together in that realm, life is a lot better, isn't it? It really is. And when you can smile and get up every morning and say, today is going to be a great day, that's amazing. And that's the vision that I do have for the community and the works that we do from our organization.
I love that you point out that the NAACP is not just a Black organization. It's a community organization.
Absolutely.
Because who doesn't want to live in a community where everyone feels valued and embraced and has the same opportunity? And like you also said before, it takes partnerships, and it takes you can't just do it by yourself. I can't just do it by we can do it together. We need to do it together, and here's an organization that provides a vehicle to be able to do that.
Absolutely. And the old African proverb says it takes a whole village to raise the child or that community so that it can thrive, and that's basically part of our mission, is to make sure that we thrive in the community and the community thrives itself. It's a symbiotic relationship there. So it's one of the goals. And so we invite any and everyone to come in and get involved and come to some of our meetings and the forums that we do have. We're open to ideas. And if you see some gaps or something that you may have a question about, don't hesitate. Hey, give me a call, or give any of our board members, our executive committee members, a call if you see them in passing, because a lot of them people know, from teachers and educators to people like me, just everyday ordinary people that you might pass on the street, or you might see me in a suit today, or you might see me in a jogging suit tomorrow. I'm just like you. We're all in this thing together.
Yeah, you know? Everyday extraordinary people, Darold Newton. Well, you're talking about engagement. We talked initially about you being an ad man in communications. Tell me about Soul Issue.
Soul Issue, the African American perspective. Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Phil. I happen to be the host and producer.
Yes, you are.
PBS local programming, and I actually have had some amazing shows and interviews with some amazing people, from NASA to Eric Holder to gee whiz. I mean, if you go on our website, www.deltabroadcasting.com/Soul Issue, you can see some of the shows, and I've just been blessed to be able to do that. There was a woman by the name of Linda Holloman, Dr. Linda Holloman, who was just an amazing host prior to me, and passed over the torch. And hopefully I'm doing a decent job in keeping and bearing the bearer of that torch, and keeping the spirit of Soul Issue, the African American perspective, alive. And it is just a program designed. Actually, it's the only public broadcast program to bring issues that affect the African American community, those hard-hitting things that happen on a day-to-day basis. I wish I could do more shows. I'm working on that as we speak, because there's so much out there. And my thing about that is looking to find the good things and praise them. As Alex Haley says, find the good and praise it, because there's a lot of good out there. And you see the news these days, and sometimes it puts African Americans in a bad light, crime and everything else. But there's a lot of good in all of our communities. We just have to look sometimes a little harder to find it. And it's really not that hard, because there's more good than there is the bad and the evil.
I was just going to say the same. You don't really have to look that hard. It's just we're so inherently, we naturally gravitate towards sensational, negative news. And that's in our DNA. We love gossip, and we love drama, and we love all of that stuff. And so it's really easy to feel yourself leaning that way. But all you have to do is open your door and talk to somebody, and like, wow, you are amazing. You're doing great things.
Absolutely. And it takes me back, and I may be dating myself or aging myself, when I think it was Sesame Street had the little segment in there, and who are the people in your neighborhood. That's kind of the driving force behind me, finding those that are doing great things or extraordinary things, the things that matter, as I always say, that are making a difference, similar to what you're doing here. And so I give you credit for that, and it's wonderful. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Do you leave those interviews just completely amped out of you, like just so inspired and ready to take? Because more often than not, I hit stop record and I just like, I'm ready to take over the world. Like you get this feeling of adrenaline and this rush and this inspiration when you talk to not only great people doing great things, but local great people doing good things. Like these are people in my community right here doing this, and they care so much, and they've been through so much, and they've overcome so much. It's just a level of inspiration you can't get another way.
I really do, and it's just amazing. And sometimes we sit on set afterwards and just talk about how we can collaborate, how we can do things. As a matter of fact, Mike Redford has a show out there as well, and again, I bring up Diane Mahoney and Aaron Krutzenberg on the DEI findings and all. We had just an amazing conversation, and he was amazed that this study was taken and what the impetus and the initiative was behind it. And he was just amazed that Bay City has actually done something like that. And where we go with that study and how we present it is the next step. And as I told Diane, I wouldn't mind being an ambassador for that, going to companies and getting into places that need to be aware of the statistics and what part and what role they can play on making things better in this community, because there's always room for improvement, even with myself. So with that being said, maybe you guys out there expect me to knock on the door or a phone call, and here I am with the study, and this is how you can make an impression or something better in the community with those resources. So and we have to be serious about it, and we have to take it serious, and if we're going to be a thriving community.
When you looked at that study, did it change how you thought in any sort of way? Did it give you ideas? Did it make it apparent, like this is what we need to do moving forward? Talk to me about that.
Well, that's a great question, because starting with the census, the numbers are, and I worked on a coalition there to make sure that we recruited or everybody filled that out first and foremost, because number one, it has political implications there. And number two, those hard to reach populations don't realize that by not doing those things, it's going to affect funding and things of that nature in the community. But moving forward to the survey, I told the committee that these numbers aren't surprising. They're actually supporting and substantiating what I already knew, or what we as some people already knew, because we were feeling those things every day, especially when your gross income or your median income is 10 times less than the norm or the average median person. You feel those things every day when you go to the grocery store, or you go here or there to buy things. And so that wasn't a surprise. Or the graduation rate in high school are lower, but growing and getting better. But those are things that would make a person raise an eyebrow. Says, well, Daryl, I didn't know that. Just by judging and the way things are, we would have not known unless these numbers were quantified here. But there are people out there that feel this stuff every day. They live it, they breathe it, they talk it. But now we have a concrete document that says this is the state of the community. And these are the areas where a lot of the funding needs to be rechanneled or rethought and put in order to bring everyone up. Because when the lowest on the rung is brought up, then so shall the community also be brought up.
Yep.
And so you're only as good and strong as your weakest link. So they'll probably get a call or a knock on the door.
Yeah.
I'll bring my folding chair and say, hey, we need to have this conversation.
Wearing a suit or wearing a jogging outfit.
Yeah. Well, however it's done, we need to talk.
Yeah.
So
such an important part of building a better community. You have to get in there. You have to listen to people's experiences. You have to engage. You also have to study and say, what does the math say? What are the numbers say? Because everyone is biased in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
We know some people, we don't know some people. Right. We come from a certain experience, but not from another. So you have to get in, you have to dig in, you have to look at the math, look at the numbers, sit across from people with the same kind of goals and say, what is it you're seeing here? Yeah. How do we move forward here? And if you never get to that part of saying, hey, we're going to dig into these numbers, it might make us a little uncomfortable. You can't really build a better community. So props to the Community Foundation and everybody involved for saying, let's study this so we can figure out a way forward. That's super cool.
And it's still ongoing as we speak. And it's an amazing project with a coalition of a panel of people from businesses from Dow to Michigan Sugar to the Bay City School Board to the Department of Public Safety. I mean, everybody is on board with this because we need this. Yep. And at least we have to have the conversation and look at the numbers and say, well, we can't do it all at once, but darn it, we can make a start somewhere. Let's take a look at where we or I can make an impact and let us do our thing. So
you start with your 10-year, 50-year plan, and then you work back like, okay, what can we do tomorrow?
Well, I look at it this way, Phil. You have a major corporation just a few miles from us, like Dow or the SK Siltrons, which came into the community and is doing great outreach work. And kudos out to them. But you have those resources. You're a global company, and you're right here. Why not start with your own local community? You know, as I say in politics, all things start local. So what better place to start than here locally and getting the community? And don't get me wrong, I love Bay City. Bay City's got a lot of great things going on. And as I said, I lived in New York and all up and down the Eastern Corridor. But the feel and everything here is just, especially in the spring and summer, is my time of year. It's amazing. And so you would have to be encouraged, but there's still a lot of work to be done so that everybody can fully participate in all of the wonderful things that it has to offer. So
I always tell people that the highest form of love for a community, it mimics that of a great parent. That a great parent understands that it's part of their role is to speak life into your children, encourage them, motivate them, teach them that they can take over the world and give them the tools to do that. But at the same time, the other part of being a great parent is being aware of how can I help them address when they do something wrong, when they're mistaken, when they screw up, how do I help them build a life that isn't 100% rainbows and unicorns, but it fully embraces the fact that we are fallible people. This is a lifelong progress or a process of improvement, and a community is the same way. One hand, speaking life into each other, embracing each other, lifting everybody up, shouting from the mountaintops the best the community has to offer. But at the same time, being really transparent and say, if we love this community as much as we say we do, we will then make sure that everybody is enjoying this community like we are. And are we bringing everybody along for the ride? Are we addressing things that have to be better in a very proactive way? And that I think is an amazing kind of community to be a part of.
Absolutely. And even if you just look at it from the standpoint of the events that we do hold here throughout the summer. Sure, a lot of the entertainment and all of that good stuff is wonderful, but it's still sometimes it does leave out a small percentage of the population that doesn't relate to that, which they should, because I'll go down to the country and western hold house. I'll put my boots and hats on because I love country music and all of that great stuff. But there are other things that should be presented as well, which the NAACP is in the process right now of putting on the Freedom Day celebration right down here at the park, which is it's all inclusive, and it's a celebration of Juneteenth as well as health fair, because good health and wellness is very important to the community. And I would encourage and invite the whole community to come out, because I guarantee you there'll be something in there that kind of you'll be amazed by or taken by, or just say, wow, this is really cool and I didn't know, or something that you learned from it. And going back when you say right or wrong, and as I said, wrong is going to be wrong regardless of how you look at it. But we have to take an approach to say, well, we still can encourage and give second chances, or reroute or detour that behavior. And because there's always something great in any and everyone that I come across. You just have to look deep enough to find it. It's there. And that encouragement and that coaching and paying attention and caring. Again, that word care is important. And them knowing that you care changes lives. It transforms lives. It can make a difference. And that's the same way with this community. If the community truly really cares, we have to take these moments where we interact more and share and just, as again, I'll go back and say there's more that binds us than that separates us. And there's good times to be had for everybody. We just have to find that niche, or that perfect meal, or that perfect dish or dessert that just
piece of the pie.
There we go. And it's about harmony and community unity, and just enjoying life and making the best of the time that you do have here on this earth. To make the best of it. That's what I would encourage people to do.
Amen. If people are looking to get more deeply involved in the NAACP, how would they go about doing that? Tell me a little bit about how they could contact you or reach out or follow you.
Well, they can actually request an application, or they can go to baycitynaacp@gmail.com. I have to make sure that's right. I'm pretty sure it is. Or they could reach out to us via our Facebook page with the message and all, or they can call me direct. And in many cases, being a small community, you'll see people like John Smith or Jerry McAfee or a lady in Mazik or me running around here. Just reach out and in any of those forms, and we'd be happy to have you in there, because we're there. The numbers are there, social ideas and just harmony there, for the lack of terms. So the more the merrier, I guess is what I'm saying. And because there's some things that we may not see that you see. So as an organization, there's always room for improvement for us too. We might be missing some points or some areas. So, hey, come on, join us and, fight the good fight, as we say. Get in good trouble, as John would say.
Yes, I love it. Well, you are an absolutely delightful human being, Darold Newton. I'm so glad that we got to meet.
Well, I'm humbled, Phil. I really am. I'm humbled, and I thank you so much for allowing me to have this platform to share and communicate.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Darold. I'm sure I'll run into you either wearing a suit or a jogging suit sometime soon. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Cut.
All right.
Heck yeah, dude. You're awesome.